May 20, 2026. A federal court in West Palm Beach, Florida. A 62-year-old former prosecutor walks in, stands before a magistrate judge, and pleads not guilty to 4 felony counts. Her name is Carmen Lineberger, and the reason she's standing in that courtroom is something that sounds almost too strange to be real. According to the indictment, she emailed herself one of the most consequential sealed legal documents in modern American history, the unreleased special counsel report on Donald Trump's classified documents case, and disguised it as a recipe for bundt cake. That is not a metaphor. That is not a shorthand. The indictment alleges she altered the original file name of the report to bundt cake recipe, PTF, before saving it to her government computer and emailing it to her personal Gmail account. And that wasn't the first time. Months earlier, she allegedly sent additional confidential Justice Department materials to herself using a file titled Chocolate Cake head. Cake recipes. Twice. For documents that the sitting President of the United States has fought for over a year to make sure the public never sees. I've been going through the indictment, the court history, and the political fallout from this story since it broke. Let me show you exactly what this is about, why the document at the center of this case matters so much that Trump's legal team spent months in court fighting to keep it buried, and why this story is bigger than one prosecutor's career ending in a federal courtroom. Because there are 3 separate threads here, and they all connect in ways that explain everything. Let's start with the document itself, because without understanding what it is and why it's sealed, the rest of this story doesn't make sense. Jack Smith was appointed as special counsel in late 2022. His office ran 2 separate federal investigations into Donald Trump. The first was the January 6th election interference case. The second was the classified documents case, centered on dozens of top-secret records that Trump retained at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach after leaving office in 2021. At the end of his work, Smith prepared a 2-volume final report. Volume I, covering the election case, was released to the public before Trump's inauguration in January 2025. Volume I, covering the classified documents investigation, has never been seen by anyone outside of a narrow circle of government officials and prosecutors. The volume detailing Smith's findings, once seen as posing significant legal risk to Trump, has not been released publicly. And that is not an accident. Here is the sequence of events that got us to this week. Judge Aileen Cannon dismissed Smith's classified documents case against Trump in July 2024, ruling that Smith was improperly appointed as special counsel. That dismissal ended the criminal prosecution before it went to trial. Smith appealed. Then Trump won the election in November, and the Justice Department under the new administration dropped the appeal, citing policy against prosecuting a sitting president. The case was gone. But the report remained, and the question of whether the public would ever see it became its own separate legal fight. Cannon ruled in February 2026 that the report should be sealed permanently, after Trump and his co-defendants sought a court order barring its release. Her reasoning was direct. The public release of the report would contravene the conclusions in the court's final dismissal order that special counsel Smith acted without lawful appointment or funding authority. In other words, because she already ruled Smith's appointment was unlawful. She argued his report should be treated as if it never had legal standing to exist. She also ruled that releasing it would present a manifest injustice to Trump and his 2 co-defendants. The order bars Attorney General Pam Bondi, or her successors, from releasing or sharing that portion of the final report. Bondi had already determined that the report's 2nd volume shouldn't be released, in part because of questions surrounding the legality of Smith's appointment. So by February 2026, here is where things stood. The classified documents case is closed. The criminal charges are gone. The special counsel is gone. The report summarizing everything Smith found, everything he investigated, every piece of evidence his office developed about what Trump took, and how he allegedly obstructed the government's attempts to get it back, is sealed. Permanently. By a judge Trump appointed, with the full backing of an Attorney General Trump appointed. 2 government watchdog groups, American Oversight and the Knight Institute, had attempted to force the release of Volume 2 and sought relief from the Federal Appeals Court. American Oversight's executive director said the ruling continues a troubling pattern of decisions that shield the president from public scrutiny and place secrecy above the public's right to know, and that the public is denied information of extraordinary national importance. But the court held. The report stayed sealed. And for a few months that appeared to be the end of it. Then Carmen Lineberger walked into a courtroom last Wednesday. Here's who Lineberger is and why her access to the document matters. She served as a managing assistant U.S. attorney in the Justice Department's Fort Pierce, Florida branch. Fort Pierce is in the same judicial district where Trump's classified documents case was filed and prosecuted. She was not a peripheral figure. She worked in the same office that handled Trump's classified documents prosecution. She had professional access to the report in her capacity as a senior prosecutor in that district. A grand jury indicted her on 4 felony counts for allegedly attempting to steal the report, which has been sealed from public view for more than a year. Prosecutors allege that Lineberger downloaded a copy of the sealed report onto her work computer and sent it to her personal email account in January 2025. That timing is precise. January 2025 is 4 days before Trump's inauguration. The report existed in the system. She had access. And in the final days before Trump returned to power, she allegedly copied it and sent it to herself, disguised as a bundt cake recipe. If convicted on all charges, including obstruction of justice, concealing government records, and 2 misdemeanor theft counts, Lineberger faces a maximum sentence of up to 25 years in prison. Now here is the central question that the indictment raises and does not answer. Why? The indictment does not explain why Lineberger may have wanted to send the report to her own email account. That one sentence from prosecutors is the most important line in this entire story. They charged her. They described exactly what she allegedly did, how she renamed the files, what accounts she used, what the timeline was, and they did not say why. There are 2 possibilities. Either she wanted to preserve the document before it could be destroyed or buried under the new administration. Or she intended to leak it. The indictment is silent on this, which means the intent question, the most legally and politically significant question, is still open. And it will be at the center of every hearing in this case going forward. What we do know from other sources helps build context. In March 2026, House Judiciary Democrats obtained previously undisclosed investigative documents related to Trump's efforts to steal, hide, and lie about classified materials he hoarded at his Mar-a-Lago and Bedminster clubs. That production contained a January 13, 2023 memorandum detailing non-public information about the classified documents Trump retained. Democrats saw a piece of what Smith's office found. What they saw alarmed them enough to demand more. Jack Smith himself testified under oath before the House Judiciary Committee in January 2026. He said his prosecutors had developed powerful evidence that showed that President Trump willfully retained highly classified documents after he left office and stored them in locations including a bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. Under oath, willfully retained, highly classified, bathroom. That testimony is public. The full report behind it is not. That gap between what Smith told Congress he found and what the sealed report actually contains is the space that Cannon's ruling and the Trump administration's legal strategy has worked to protect. And it is the same space that Carmen Lineberger allegedly tried to bridge by emailing herself a copy of it disguised as a baked good. The political reaction to this indictment split exactly as you would expect. Trump supporters framed it as the system working. A DOJ prosecutor violated a court order. She was caught. She was charged. Rule of law functioning. Democrats framed it as a symptom of the larger problem. The reason someone inside the system would take a risk like this, a federal felony charge for emailing herself a sealed document, is because every official channel for public access to that report has been closed. Rep. Jamie Raskin's office had written to Attorney General Bondi repeatedly, arguing she had no justification for withholding the report and that Cannon's order did not bar the DOJ from handing it to Congress. Democrats wrote directly, "You are permitting prosecutors to be hauled before Congress to defend their work while denying Congress and the American public the written record that would explain it." Those letters produced nothing. Bondi could have asked Cannon to unseal the report, but has not done so. So the complete picture is this. The classified documents case produced a detailed final report. That report was sealed by a Trump-appointed judge at the request of Trump's lawyers. The Trump-appointed Attorney General has refused to release it or ask the court to unseal it. 2 watchdog organizations are appealing in federal court but have not broken through yet. Jack Smith testified about what the report contains, but is legally barred from describing it in full. And now a career prosecutor from inside the same office that prosecuted the case has been indicted for allegedly trying to preserve a copy of it in the final days before the administration that would guarantee it would never come out took power. That is the architecture of the situation. Every piece of it is real. Every piece of it is documented. Every piece of it points toward the same question, which is the one question the sealed report could actually answer. What exactly did Jack Smith find, and how serious was it? The Lineberger case will not answer that question directly. Even if the full trial proceeds, the substance of the sealed report is unlikely to become public through that proceeding. What the trial will answer is what she intended, what she planned to do with the document, and whether the alleged concealment method, 2 cake recipe file names over 2 separate incidents, reflects careful planning or panic. What it already answered, just by the fact of the indictment being unsealed and publicly filed, is that the sealed report still exists, is still accessible to prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida, is still considered sensitive enough to prosecute a federal crime over, and is still being fought over by people with significant skin in the outcome. The strange allegations involving hidden cake recipe file names have created another unexpected chapter in the long-running legal and political saga surrounding Smith's investigations of Trump. That is an understatement. This chapter involves a sealed document so consequential that a 62-year-old career prosecutor allegedly risked her entire professional life to preserve it. 4 felony counts. Up to 25 years in federal prison, for a PDF she renamed after a dessert. The question of what is actually in that report is not going away. The appeal by American Oversight and the Knight Institute is still active. Congressional Democrats are still pushing. The legal fight over whether courts have the authority to permanently seal a special counsel's conclusions about a sitting president has not been resolved. And somewhere apparently on a personal Gmail account, there may be a copy of it filed under baked goods. Track 3 things from here. The intent question in the Lineberger trial. If prosecutors argue at trial that she planned to leak it, and if they present evidence about where the document was meant to go, this case becomes about far more than one prosecutor's conduct. It becomes about how close the sealed report came to becoming public and who else knew about it. The appeals court ruling on the watchdog group's challenge to Cannon's permanent seal order. That appeal is the last live legal pathway to forcing the report's release through official channels. If the court sides with American Oversight, the seal breaks. If it upholds Cannon, the report stays buried indefinitely. And the third thing, whether Congress, specifically any Republican senator facing a competitive midterm race, decides that a permanently sealed federal report on a president's alleged mishandling of classified documents is a political liability they no longer want to be associated with. That calculation hasn't happened yet. But the Lineberger indictment put the sealed report back on the front page. And front pages have a way of changing political calculations. The report exists. Someone inside the system cared enough about it to take a federal crime risk to preserve it. And every official mechanism designed to keep it from the public is still holding. For now. I will track every development in the Lineberger case and the appeals court challenge as they develop. Subscribe so you get the breakdown the moment either one moves.